Ricky, you're probably listening in on the last conversation. I just like to chat with people about any deeply held belief. Typically it's best if it's something that you deeply believe is true, something that might influence you on a regular basis.
Okay.
Anything like that comes to mind?
Yeah, my belief,
Spiritual, religious, political, scientific.
yeah, larger ideas, definitely the idea that we are all connected to our environment, our surroundings, and that it's an intricate part of who we are internally and externally. And there's a lot of disdain or disbelief with us being connected to everything. I think if we believed that we are our environment is us, we would have a healthier relationship with it and each other. And so I do believe that we are basically the universe, and the universe is us. And I think it bleeds into my relationship with other people and seeing them as myself and having that positive relationship and affirmation of them.
Yeah, I think it comes to mind a cool quote from Neil deGrasse Tyson, like, we're all connected biologically to the people and to the earth, chemically, and into the universe atomically.
That's beautiful. Yeah. That's beautiful.
We're all cousins, evolutionarily speaking.
Yeah, I live and believe that. I love science. And it's funny, I've been under my own scrutiny of science recently in terms of like, it is a religion in itself. Science in itself is a religion. The information given out.
What do you mean by that?
I think factual information now is up for grabs. You know, I think the science that can be proven, I think even being proven is, I don't know, man. I think I'm in the middle maybe actually of whether science used to hold a really strong anchor in me and now it's a little bit more of
Just another religion, another thing that might be true or false?
Yeah, I mean, there's the idea that we can't sense everything. We have 5 senses and we can pick up a lot of what's happening around us, but we can't see, touch, hear, feel, and taste everything. We can't perceive all the realities and dimensions that possibly exist here. And I think our science is a microcosm of that. It's a reflection of only what we can take in.
When I think of science, I think of two things. I think it's like it's a body of knowledge. It's also a process for like figuring things out.
Mm-hmm.
It's a scientific method.
Yeah.
It seems to be kind of like the most reliable way of figuring things out that I've come to find, unless you know of any other way.
I liked fortune cookies a lot. No, science has been that thing for me. It makes sense. You test it, you prove it. There it is. And I like that. I like that foundation. It just makes sense.
Yeah, because it's not about reaching absolute truths. It's about aligning just our mental model of reality as closely as possible. It's just once we get new information, then we revise it. We revise our theories according to the evidence.
Totally. I am in agreement with you on that.
But you're talking about maybe science not having a way to know everything? Is that what you're trying to say?
Yeah, I think science has parameters. I think it does. Its parameters are only as large as our minds. You know, we can only measure as intelligent as we are, basically.
So, what would be an example of something that we could be confident is true that science doesn't really have a way of knowing?
I think the idea that there are other life forms outside of ourselves, fully functional beings in the universe, it's just a guess, honestly, but I just feel like we're not the only creatures that exist.
So there could be other life forms out there based on the same stuff we're made out of, the same atoms and chemicals, or like something supernatural?
I don't know. I honestly don't know. But I don't believe that human race is the only. I mean, we're type 0, in terms of like what we can do, right? We're basic. We're basic bitches, as the video says. But I think there's like super highly intelligent beings that do exist out there. I believe that. Of course, there's no science behind that. And like you said with that quote, Neil deGrasse Tyson, that's science. That quote is science, literally, which says, that quote proves that we're all the same and connected. And if people respected and believed in science, then that would be the proof. It's like we're all the same. Creed aside of the idea of race, we're all the same. And of course, it's a story of how we came about, or of Jesus, or of the religious stories that come about. But that quote kind of says, that says it all.
Yeah. So you believe there's these super, intelligent beings out there. But, of course, it's possible that's true.
Mm-hmm.
But how can we accurately know how probable it is? Would you prefer
I think I feel more comfortable sitting in my imagination and painting out the possibility and belief of what I believe to be this immaculate universe that exists than in any other department that I have in my head, whether it be scientific, logical, or anything. I'd rather have my imagination guide me to a belief of that there's this crazy thing out there of beings that don't self-destruct themselves and kill their planet.
Okay.
Having
your imagination guide you?
Yeah, I think my imagination, realizing in this conversation, is actually my go-to and my home in terms of belief and possibility. Which is zero scientific, some would say, right?
Yeah, it seems like we would be at a little bit of a risk if we just use our imagination to believe in things.
Yeah, totally.
It seems like if we want to achieve our goals in life for society, it might be preferable to believe as many true things as possible and as few false things as possible.
Yeah.
And it seems like just using your imagination to get to something could lead you astray sometimes.
Most definitely. I think for those things that cannot be proven, I think that's what brought me to my imagination in this conversation, was talking about something that science cannot prove yet, but I prove in my imagination of believing these things.
I think it would be super awesome if there actually was life outside of Earth.
Yeah.
Is my preference for that being true in any way related to the actual reality?
Oh yeah, of course. I want it to be true, so therefore I believe it to be true.
Is that a reliable way to come to that belief? A lot of people want things to be true.
Yeah. I want
a hoverboard.
Yeah. You could say no. It's not a reliable way at all. It's a biased way. So for the mere fact of true or not true, just for the mere fact of truth, then it's a very biased way to come about some truth. You just say, hey, it's true. Yeah, done,
So should we kind of reserve judgment in things we can't prove until such a time we can?
I think reserving is something that I don't allow in myself. I allow, for the time that I have on this planet and being an artist and unraveling myself, I unravel as many of my beliefs and possibilities as I can. And so I make these assumptions or these truths I perceive to be, as opposed to being like, I don't know if there's truth out there. I don't know if there's being out there. I believe that that exists out there, and I'm okay with going out on a ledge and having me, of course, with a bias, believe that. I'm comfortable with that. I'd rather have that than going like, I don't know.
Are you really being honest with yourself? Are you kind of tricking yourself into believing it? Are you lying to yourself?
No,
Is it a truthful way to live? Do you want to live truthfully? Or just in a way that makes
no,
you
I
happy?
want to live as authentically and honestly as possible, you know? And I truly believe that there are intelligent beings out there. I believe there are higher consciousness entities that exist because I see the potential in ourselves that we have not yet gotten to as a collective, and I believe that there are leaders of higher consciousness that exist outside
So
for
that's-
whatever reason.
So really the belief about the intelligent things are connected to us in some way.
Yeah, totally.
Like we
They're factions of our possibility. They're factions of our potential that I see in humanity and the human race, and I believe that they exist like that.
how can that give us potential? How does that work? How did you get
The idea
from
that there is
believing
an
in them to give us-
advanced, the idea that there is an advanced civilization who is prospering and thriving helps my belief in humanity here.
I'm a big fan of Star Trek,
Yeah.
and I get a lot of inspiration from that about possible futures.
Yeah.
That's a great way to fuel motivation and inspiration, but I'm not putting any kind of sense of truth value about something I can't know.
Yeah.
So maybe that might be a more reliable way, or a less risky way to come to that.
I mean, I
To
can
meet that need.
I can sit in the idea, like you said, of reserving judgment and being like, I don't know whether there is intelligent life out there or not. I can sit in that space, but there is an element for me that I'm discovering in this conversation of truth that, what's the word I'm looking for? Even if I'm hardcore, solid truth, I don't know if I want that, actually. I think I'd rather lie to myself and tell myself these things because they're more exciting to me. They're more fulfilling to me. I'd rather live or have this, God, I can't think of the word, but that idea of truth actually being almost this silly kind of thing that quenches the places I needed to quench in me. But I'm realizing in this conversation that truth for me is bias. It is, I use it and I bend it to whatever I believe it to be. Truth is, and so it's very subjective to me.
When someone says something like that, it brings to mind a quote that I think about. The quote is like, the fact that a believer is happier than a skeptic is no more to the point than the fact that a drunken man is happier than a sober one. Do you want to go around being the drunken man, just being happy, or being a sober person that is more aligned with truth?
I think that's my constant battle. I am the drunken man, but I also have a lot of rationality and a lot of logicalness. And so I am very much a breed of both. But I like, there is truth in my denial. And I'm in denial of these things. It's possible. And that's my truth. And I'm drunk in it, clearly in my own belief. I'm drunk in it. And it makes me happy on this end. And then the logical end over here, sometimes I balance it. Sometimes I don't go way out of the league, I feel like, but there's an element of the ground, what tells us is factual, and then me going, let me just, I'm gonna do this to make me happy. And I think that might be a balance that I live. Those two places. Okay. Discovering this in this conversation.
Yeah. Is keeping that balance, is one a greater virtue than another?
I think what comes to mind is the yin yang and the balance. Imagination, possibility is, especially as the identity that I wear as an artist, it being my forever possibility place, is of the highest order. And my logical side is important, but not as important as my imagination, as in my place to create my own reality, my place where I can create my own reality. That's more important to me. That's what's kept me sane in this world we live in, is my ability to create my own reality around this reality, we call it. So I think I would rely more on it.
For me, art, one of its purposes is to act as like a tool to help us solve problems. It's like movies kind of show us people with different perspectives trying to solve a problem. And like there's conflict there. But no matter how fantastical the movie may be, the characters or the settings, those can be untrue, but it's like the type of conflicts, the type of problems, those can be used for people to solve problems in the real world.
Yeah.
But the real world is actually something we can measure, keep track of, discover. And we can't just imagine things into existence in the real world. So art is great at getting us to use fantasy to actually solve problems in the real world, for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I kind of have to figure out a way to know if something's true or not in order to reach my goals in the best way possible.
Totally. That makes a lot of sense. Jumping off the ledge, or one of my favorite quotes is, jump off the cliff and build your wings on the way down. That idea, I do comedy on the street, on Hollywood and Highland on the corner. Sometimes I don't know what the hell I'm doing. But the idea of jumping off and letting my imagination, or wherever this place is, just take me. I don't know how much logical thinking goes into these places sometimes, that I just fly. And so I live in this place that I can't explain a lot. It's just like trusting and allowing. And so I have this relationship with that in my imagination, where I look to it even for logical purposes. Sometimes I look to my imagination to go, what do you think? What, should we just fly around? Should I just fly around?
I think imagination is crucial for science, for generating the first questions, the first hypotheses, the first step in the scientific method. But without the rest of it, we might be kind of tricking ourselves without being able to test it, making prediction and then testing it and see if it matches the prediction.
Yeah.
we should, if it doesn't match, if our experiment doesn't match our prediction, why would we keep the first hypothesis in the first place? If it doesn't match reality, wouldn't we want to revise it, keep testing it, and revise it again?
Unless you don't want that reality, or you don't like that reality. Because there's a lot of realities in this world to not like, or that don't supplement or don't fulfill you or don't give you.
So in the face of realities we don't like, getting from point A to point B, solving problems, are we better off believing just things that are true and not false, or just believing in things that might give us comfort?
I like to think of cultivating my own truth as a way to do it, where I don't necessarily call what I do fake or false, but I believe what I need to do in order to supplement my well-being is called truth to me. You know, what's going to help me thrive in my life will be my truth, and so I'm going to call that and have that be my truth. Capitalism, going to pay for something with something, or having these things exist, there's some truth in those relationships, but I think that's one example of being like, no, I'm gonna call truth in that thing that we call capitalism. I'll judge what's true in that system or not, and it's me going underneath everything and going, no, this is just a system. Let me go down there. And so sometimes I go down there and I go, this isn't true. I'm going to call what I believe to be true. That's an example of me going underneath what is perceived as. Sometimes our society has these pillars that we call things to be real or not real. And sometimes I don't believe that. I go under. I assess what I believe to be truth behind the situation, and that's when I create my own truth, which others might call false or say there is no substance behind that.
And your method for assessing these truths are your own imagination?
I think they're relationship-based, they're connection, humanity-based, a lot of love, or the idea of wanting the best for other individuals, wanting to see other individuals thrive. I think that's where those places come from. God, I want to keep talking to you because we're on to something really good. I don't want to have my friend waiting for me this whole time. Sorry. I really like this, brother. Yeah, man.
I'll be here probably every weekend for a while.
Yeah?
Weekend.
Yeah, man. Is this where you're going to... What's your name, brother?
Reed.
Reed? I'm Ricky, brother. It's a pleasure, man.
Nice to meet you. Stuff to think about.
Oh my God, you gave me so much to think about, honestly. It's like my biases and how I create truth, how I survive, basically, from my own mental gymnastics, you know? Thank you very much, Reed.
Thank you. Tell them all about it. Good day.
This is, where can we watch this at all?
Have a YouTube channel called Cordial Curiosity.
Cordial Curiosity.
Check me out.
Brother. With a C? Cordial?
Cordial Curiosity.
Thank you, brother.